Hi, Jerome from Trailblazing Wine. Thanks for taking the time to download this 4-part video series showing you how to get the most out of your wines. Our first video is an introduction to tasting wines. Hope you enjoy it. Hi, an introduction to tasting wines. Generally when we're tasting wines, we're in a social environment and it's very easy to think more about the conversations you're having rather than the wine itself. And what can often happen is the next day you think, well, I enjoyed this wine, but I can't remember what it was and can't remember what it was like with the food. So it's actually worthwhile taking a bit of time to learn the basics in wine tasting because that'll help you get much more enjoyment out of it. So the professional approach to tasting wines ensures that every wine you taste is tasted under the same guidelines, which means you can fairly assess the wines again and decide what wines you like the best and what wines you don't like. So the first thing you do when you've poured your glass is to assess the colour of the wines, and to do that it's great to have a white surface and you look at the wines to see if there are any bits in it. There's nothing wrong if there are bits in it because the wines might not be filtered, and a lot of sort of organic or natural wines do tend to have sediments in because they're not filtered, and the winemaker believes that they have more flavour through not being filtered. Similar to sort of cask beers, for example, or apple juice that you'll buy at the local farm. If you tip the wine to the side, you want to see what the edge of the wine is like and the core of the wine. Now, with this wine that I'm looking at, it's a fairly sort of pinkish rim to the wine and a lightish colour in the centre. That would indicate, the pinkish rim indicates that the wine is fairly youthful. If it changes colour, sort of orangey colours, it's an older wine. And the core is a sort of a lightish purple colour. It's a fairly clear wine and fairly transparent, so it indicates it's quite a light wine. If it was deep purple, you would think it was more of a heavier wine. You then swirl the wine and you can see there's a few bubbles there, not very many, but that's just oxygen in the wine. And also there are very delicate tears coming down, not thick tears, but just delicate ones, which shows the wine has a little bit of glycerol in there. It's not a mark of quality, but if it was a very heavy wine, then you'd see more tears coming down the wine. So they're your observations of the wine. The next thing you do is you swirl the wine and give it a good smell. Now when you smell the wine, what you're actually looking for there is first of all to check if the wine is clean or not, and by that I mean is the wine faulty or not. Now a few years ago there was a big problem with cork taints especially, and faults, and it was largely down to hygiene in the winery, but also a chemical, TCA is abbreviation, that affected the wines and destroyed whole batches of wines, and it made the wine smell of kind of a wet cardboard, and that smell totally killed the fruit and killed the wine. So a lot of people were sending back wines and thinking they don't like them when actually the wine was corked, and the wine when it's not corked is delicious. So the first thing we're doing is check for the wine being faulty or not. Now nowadays it's less likely that the wine is corked because the wine industry has spent a lot of effort and money in eradicating the problem. There is still a slight problem, but generally wines are clean. But when you're happy that the wine smells is not faulty, give another smell, and the next smell you're really checking to see if the wine, what the fruits are. So whether the wine is fruity or very subtle, or whether there's lots of flavours or not a lot of flavour. And this wine, there's a lot of fruit there. It's a red wine and it's youthful. And generally with the younger wines, it's got a lot more kind of what I would say primary fruits on there. So there's strawberries and red fruits coming through, delicious, but also a little bit of vanilla and spice. And the vanilla would tell me that there's a little bit of oak in there. So when you're happy about that, you're happy with the smell of the wine, you're then ready to taste it. When you taste the wine, the best thing to do is to breathe over the wine, because there you're getting all the aromas breathing over. The wine needs oxygen in order to breathe and get the flavour out. So when you breathe over the wine, you're getting all those flavours. And what you're checking here is, are the flavours the same as on the nose, or are they different? How many flavours are there? Is the wine complex or not? The more flavours you get, often the more complex and the more premium the wine is, the more fine wine is. And with this wine, it has an awful lot of flavour. And the final part you're looking for is how long those flavours last on the palate. Now, if you can taste the wine for several seconds afterwards, then you're starting to get into the quality browns. The cheapest wines tend to disappear on the palate very quickly after sort of 2 or 3 seconds. With this wine, I can still taste it after 10 seconds or so, even 15 seconds, which shows it's a quality wine. It is youthful, so the flavours on the palate are the same as on the nose, but it's lasting a long time. The flavours taste very clean, not artificial at all. The other thing I'm noticing is the dryness. You can check the dryness on the sides of your palate, and the dryness is the tannins that you get in the skins of the grape. And those tannins help the wine work with, in particular with food. They attach very well to proteins in the meat, and what happens there is you end up tasting the fruit of the wine, and you can taste the fruit over the food. If the wine doesn't have that tannin in there, then often the food can overpower the wine. So if you take that same step with all the wines that you taste, then you can really begin to benchmark what the wines are that you like and you don't like, and you're doing it in a methodical way. So I hope that helps, and it's a very basic first step into introducing wines. Thanks very much.